part of this. It's really special, and I deal with music and Judaism all the time with different groups of people, and I often feel my life is compartmentalized. But this week, I've really felt that it's like loft, emotional loft living, where it's just one big space and everything can exist together with seamless flow from one domain into the next. And it's really nice. So thank all of you for creating such a beautiful community here and be part of it. One of the things I wanted to focus on here is shofar. And we had the shofar flash mob meeting today, and I taught a workshop about shofar, and I got to do a shofar piece of Rav Kook with Ytitzchak. And people always ask me about my relationship with the instrument, being a horn blower. You know, how do you see this? Is this like the ultimate instrument? You know, is this like the great solo? You know, you can't play with Miles Davis, but you can, you know, you can jam with the Kookala, you know, on the horn. And it's something I've been struggling with for a long time. So I am going to blow the shofar right now because it's Elul. Maybe some people haven't heard it. And maybe you could fulfill your obligation, even though we don't have an obligation today, to hear that digital sample. But if you hold that the shofar being blown in a bore in a pit does not fulfill your obligation, we'll give it to you live. And then I'm just going to have Yitzchak read a few lines of a beautiful Rav Kook poem about the shofar, and then I will share some thoughts.
ראש ההר עלה ושופר גדול כך ושא עיניך וראה ענבות העם הדק ובשופר הגדול תקע תקיעה תרועה ושברים ובעליך וקרבים ירעשו הדברים והקולות יעלו בלולים עד שרשי הנשמות יגלגלו הגלגולים לבנות את השלמות. יתעוררו הנרדמים מיני האריות המשחקים בזרמים ושוגים בהזיות. יקיצו הישנים בתרדמת הגולה ויעורו הזונים בעלי האוזן הערלה. ויקומו ויעלו לארץ שהורים בקרבם הלכו וישימו קץ וקרץ לגלות שבה הודחו.
Blow the great shofar, tekiah, trua, shvarim.
Blasts, wails, broken cries. Stamp your feet and the tombs will quake, and the mingling sounds will rise to the roots of the souls, and the wheel of destiny will turn to rebuild all that is desolate. Growing up as a secular suburban Jew, I had a polite connection with ritual, dabbling in dreidels, matzah, gefilte fish. Twice yearly, we endured the forced pilgrimage to our local Reform temple, where I would hear the organist and choir accompany the cantor in a seemingly endless annual show with a large supporting cast. On Rosh Hashanah, we know it was close to liberation when we would hear the cantor or some other big-lunged designate attempt to emit a few blasts on the shofar. Like the factory whistle, the sound turned our hearts and minds to something more substantial than the religious service we were suffering through, to the tables of cakes, fruits, and confections that awaited. Off with the yarmulkes, bring on the Boilermakers of Pettifors and Coca-Cola. In later teen years, a cynical anticipation emerged. Would he or wouldn't he? A few well-intentioned splats, blats, or other ill-sounding emissions from the shofar would instantly bring a smile to the face. Perhaps the human element was in conflict with the divine tribune. Years later, as a jazz saxophonist doubling as a reluctant congregant at a traditional urban synagogue, struggling to stay on its feet after 100 years. I was pressed into service to try my hand at the shofar. The Baal Tokeya had passed on, and there was no one left who could get a sound out of the holy horn. This shouldn't be so hard, I thought. After all, I'm a wind player. Keep the air moving, relax, visualize. A few days before Rosh Hashanah, I gave it a try. Tekiah! Nothing. Tekiah! Sprat! I consulted with the rabbi, who said that I might have luck with another shofar, and showed me a drawer containing several others. I had better luck, but was still not able to consistently produce a steady tone. Then I saw one wrapped up underneath some other articles, and I held it up. Don't bother, he said. No one can get a sound out of that one. I held it to my lips and blew. Tekiah! A huge sound filled the room. Shvarim! The blast bounced off the walls and danced along the rafters. I ran up the stairs to try out my new axe in the huge main sanctuary upstairs. Trula! The shorter tones rang out in counterpoint to their still reverberating predecessors. I was psyched and I was ready. Rosh Hashanah came and went both days, and the notices were in. The new Baal Tokeya was a hit. Oh, the best I ever heard. Strong enough to set the walls a-tumbling. It felt great to be a Jewish musician playing the original instrument. But was there more to it than that? After a few years, I found myself being more and more drawn to the synagogue and feeling woefully inadequate due to my almost complete dearth of Jewish knowledge. I started a casual study of the classic Jewish texts. It wasn't long before study became a regular part of my first weekly, then daily schedule. I started to learn Hebrew and began to study the meaning of the ancient verses that we chanted in the synagogue every Saturday morning. I became a father a few times over, and it was time to move on. My wife and I decided we would raise our children within a Jewish community and provide them with the education to gain the literacy that was required to navigate within. My new rabbi, upon hearing of my predisposition to horn blowing, asked if I was a Baal Tokeya, a shofar blower. Yes, I proudly responded. Would you like to blow shofar for our community? He asked. Sure, I replied. Have you studied the laws and customs of the shofar? He asked. No, not really, not ever. Well, that would be the prerequisite before taking on the role in this new synagogue. Laws, customs. Why can't you just open up and blow? First things first. Jewish tradition teaches that it is a mitzvah, a divine commandment, to hear the sound of the shofar in Rosh Hashanah. The shofar is mentioned in several other contexts elsewhere in the Bible, but it is with the Rosh Hashanah ritual that most people are familiar with. The commandment in the book of Leviticus mentions the Zichron Truah, remembrance of the shofar, and in the book of Numbers it says concerning the holiday, it shall be a day of sounding the shofar. But why the shofar? The sound of the shofar emanating from the heavens was heard at Mount Sinai. It was blown to mark the end of the Jubilee year after seven-year agricultural cycles, and was blown in the orchestra at the whole